All right, let's go over the setup today. Today we're gonna play with this Archon 50 and compare it to the V1 Kraken. Both of these are 50 watts, so it'd be a good comparison. I am gonna run this in low. There is no higher low on this guy. But we're gonna use this amp selector to switch between them two. Use this boost. The boost is going into the gate and the line selector here. So we're gonna go through this cab, which has E609s and an SM58 on V30s. Terry, time for you to pay some rent, man. I live here rent free, man. Alright, so the game plan here is we're going to go ahead and look at the clean channel here on the Archon and then try to get a clean channel on the Kraken, and then do crunch and then a high gain mode. So we also have a boost over here, so we're going to go through that too, see how each of these amps takes boost. I heard that people kind of say the Archon is kind of like a Mesa with that big fat bottom end, and the Kraken, from what I've heard, is very mid-forward sounding. So let's go ahead and check these out. And we're going to go ahead and start with trying to get a clean tone on the PRS Archon. So let me go ahead and see if I can get a good tone here. All right, let's turn up the volume there. Now, that is with the bright switch on. Let's go ahead and turn that off and just see what it sounds like. Sounds pretty good. Let's go ahead and turn it on. With everything at noon, it sounds freaking awesome. I like how that sounds. Let's go ahead and go over to the Kraken and see what that sounds like. So we're going to go over to here, and we're going to go back to gain 1. And let's go ahead and turn the gain down. Probably got to turn the master up too. So let's see where we're at. Still has that little bit of bite to it, Let's see if I can turn that down a little bit more. Just on the edge, and then turn the master up again. And I feel like that's probably by design, because the way Rebea plays, you take an amp and you put it all at noon, and that's how the manufacturer, I believe, wants it to sound. Starting from there and then work your way through it. That's kind of how I've always approached amps. Find the manufacturer's, tone, and then play with it from there. So it still has that little bit of crunch to it. Now let's go ahead and do the Rebea and go over to the neck pickup and see what that sounds like. Very full sounding. I like that. All right, let's go back over to the PRS Archon and see what that sounds like now. Now this is with the neck pickup on. Well, for one, this is definitely a little bit louder, so let's go ahead and turn that down just a tad. But it doesn't have that like crunchiness to it. Let's see if we can, because the Archon, the way it reacts, it has a volume knob and a master. The volume knob kind of acts like the gain as well as the bright switch. The bright switch is on right now. So let's go ahead and go over and let's see if we can turn down the master, right? And then turn up the volume. Let's see where we're at now. No, it doesn't break up. So much headroom in that. Now maybe if you turn up the master and get the power tubes bumping, maybe it'll start kind of breaking up there with some compression and all. But at this point, it's got a lot of headroom, which is a good thing. I think it leaves room for more things you can do with it. A lot of people like a lot of headroom. Of course, us high gain players could care less. So let's go ahead and see, let's play with the Kraken just a little bit more. Let's give it a little bit of gain, right? Let's bring the master back down. I mean, that's just a really fun tone to play with. It's cool because it just has this like attack about it. And I would never play on the neck pickup, but like seeing Rebea and the way he plays and stuff, it inspires you to. So thanks Rebea for that. And that's part of the reason why I have this guitar in drop D right now. All I can say is that is definitely a vibe. He has definitely created a vibe with this, you know, that is kind of a signature thing with him. You know, it's kind of Toolish, you know. You can Toolish. It's like the band Tool, not that he's a tool. It's very Toolish sounding, you know. And even with the bridge pickup and just kind of getting that clang in there. Now, is that a crunch tone? That's an interesting concept to think about. Is that a crunch tone? I don't know. It just sounds like a... yes, it is a crunch tone, but it's still different. Let's go ahead and bring the gain up a little bit more. I really do like this Kraken because it just has that natural tube sound to it, and it's hard to explain, but it just bites like a tube should. I'm not saying that the Archon doesn't. So let's go back over to the Archon. And we know that the clean channel is not going to do any kind of crunch whatsoever. So let's go over to the high gain or the lead channel. Let's turn off the bright switch. And then let's bring the volume down, which is the gain, and see where we're at. Let's go ahead and use the neck pickup. It's close. I feel like I need a little more bite to it. Let's go back to the Kraken and see what that sounds like again. Now, okay, just a comparison between that. You see what I mean? There's something about that. I really love it. So let's go back over to the Archon again. Okay, let's see if I can get what I'm wanting out of the Archon like the Kraken. So let's add a little more treble. It's close. Let's add some presence. That's one thing the version 1 and everybody's been complaining about, is not having a presence knob on the V1 of the Kraken. And in V2, they fixed that. It doesn't bother me too much because I think there's a good bit of treble, and maybe where the treble frequency sits, people don't like. I'm fine with it because I can back that off and use the mid to kind of compensate for that a little bit. So back over to the PRS Archon, go back over to the Kraken. It sounds like maybe the mids are kind of cut a little bit on this one compared to the Archon. So maybe let's cut some of the mids on this. Let's go back over to the Kraken. Go back to Archon. It's so close. It's almost there. Let's bring us some more presence. I need more bite. I think it's there. This still sounds a little bigger. Let's bring up the depth too. Kraken. I don't know if you guys can hear, but there's this like slap back that really adds to Rebea's tone and what he's doing that I'm hearing in the Victory. Okay, let's try this. The PRS Archon, we're going to turn the bright switch on, which turns the gain up. It's kind of like a volume boost. So let's see what it sounds like now. Okay, Kraken. Yeah, as you can see, it's just more gain. Let's turn the gain down a little bit. Okay, I think I found it. Or as close as I'm going to get to it. I'm still not experiencing that slap back to it, but it still sounds good. This amp was not designed for Rebea, so well, let's see what it does shine on. So let's go back, bring the treble back, the mids. Which that is a killer tone too. I think it does like more of a traditional crunch to me. Let's go ahead and bring the volume up on that, and we got to bring back master. There we go. So this kind of goes into the high gain territory. Now, let's go back over to the Kraken and use gain 2 to see what we can do with the high gain portion of that. So I already have the gain 2 at 2 o'clock. Yeah. Do y'all know what that one is? Am I too old? But that sounds freaking awesome too. I really like that. The gain right there would probably be pretty good with a boost. But I'm gonna go ahead and push the gain up to about 4 o'clock and see what that sounds like. Okay, one thing I want to note about this. You hear that little scratchiness? That to me sounds like what a tube characteristic. Whenever I hear that, it sounds like it just has that characteristic of a tube where it's just driven hard, but it doesn't muddy up or anything. I love that. And what's cool about this amp is that you can push the gain up. Some amps, like a 5150 or something, it just kind of turns to mush after, 3 dials. You move it up 3 notches and it's just blown out. This one doesn't blow out, so let's go all the way up with it. I love that. It's not like super high gain, but of course if you want to go into that territory, using a boost would put you in there. So let's go ahead and bring this back a little bit. Let's go back over to the PRS Archon and see what that sounds like again. See, now that sounds like a traditional high gain amp to me. We still have the gain down pretty low, so let's go up to about 2 o'clock. All right, so now I'm hearing the thickness of this Archon. It's very low end present. I do have the depth pretty high up. I could probably turn that down some and then use maybe this bass frequency, see what that does for it. Yeah, so tightening it up, using that depth knob, you can tighten this whole thing up. Now, the only reason I would use a boost on this amp is just to tighten things up and just to, just go over the hill with that just chugginess. It doesn't really need it. You could be just fine using this as is and just tweak the EQ a little bit to compensate for that. Let's see if I can make it a high gain, kind of boosted sound to it. That's at 3 o'clock with the gain. That's high gain as heck. Let's go back to the Victory. You see the difference there? So let's go all the way up with that. It just very natural tube sounding, which this one sounds like it has a boost in front of it. Let's see if we can bring it back some to give it that natural sound. No, it can't do it. I'm not saying that the Archon sounds bad at all. I love the way this thing sounds. But there is definitely a uniqueness with the Kraken. When I think of a tube amp, I think of the Kraken. That's the first thing I think of, you know, like Marshall and that kind of stuff. And even the Marshalls sound like there's a solid state in front of a tube amp, you know, kind of thing. This sounds purely tube. And I hope I don't get wrecked from saying something like that, you know, on the comments or whatever. But, you know, it's what I'm picking up. It's how I feel about it. That's what it is. All right, so let's go ahead and boost these guys. The PRS Archon, or right now I'm on the Victory. That's with the gain all the way up. Let's go ahead and bring that back. Okay, let's go ahead and hit this overdrive. Let's see what that sounds like. That sounds sick. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add some more bass because we killed some of it, and probably bring the middle back a little bit and bring up some treble. Just my main thing that I like to do, but let's see what that sounds like. Oh yeah, there we go. It just kind of widened now. Oh, dude. No, you know when you hit that chord, you know, you got to drop D and you hit that, and you're like, yeah, that's it right there. All right, let's go over to the Archon, see what that sounds like with it boosted. And honestly, to me, that sounds just too much. Now, I know people love that kind of sound. But let's turn off this little volume boosting on here and see what it does for us there. Let's bring up the treble. Let's bring back the mids and bring back the bass. Let's go over to the Kraken. Now I want you guys to know that the Kraken does have that bass drop. No, what was that? The bass boost. There's a button on the back that tightens the low end up, and when you have it disengaged, it lets all the flub go. So, and that is disengaged as of right now. I should have stated that in the beginning, but now you know. I don't see any reason to tighten it up. And a PRS Archon. Let's give it some more depth since we're boosting it now. Yeah, give some more treble. That's a killer tone right there. Kraken. And still the Kraken just has that, like, you know, tube saturation sound, even with a boost in front of it. PRS Archon. Now, the one thing that we're not testing here, and I have to just kind of, based off of me playing it loud and not comparing it side by side, I think the Archon 50 definitely gets bigger sounding. Kind of like the Mesa does whenever you push it up into that sweet spot and then it just roars and just blasts you away. I think the Archon, from what I remember, it definitely has just this punch to it. It's like a low mid, and I think that's what everybody's talking about with the Mesa being like the Archon, or the Archon being like the Mesa, vice versa. And I would agree that the first time that I felt that punch from a Mesa, it reminded me of that whenever I turned it up. I don't know that the Kraken did, and this is just based off a feeling of playing it. But not to say that this doesn't have any low end, but it definitely feels great to play. With the tones so far, I'm leaning towards the Kraken because of how natural it sounds. But I love this Archon too, and these two are really hard to, you know, decide between. I think if I wanted more a standout guitar, I would definitely use this Kraken. If I wanted something that was a typical high gain, I'll probably use the Archon. Both get killer tones. So, all right. I think that's everything that I wanted to go through. If you guys have got any questions about it, I love both of these amps. I just lean a little bit towards the Kraken only because it just has that natural tube sound. All right, guys, DMD out.